Redditors with interesting hobbies, what do you do and why? I like magnet fishing. It's taking a strong magnet and putting it in canals, lakes or any water bodies and pulling metallic objects out. People find all kinds of cool stuff like guns, old coins, metal safes, swords, and it helps clean the water bodies as well. I've never done this but have done something similar. I once tied a hook to hundreds of yards of fishing line and flushed it down the toilet. And flushed and flushed and flushed. Hoped I would catch something cool like a ring when I pulled the line back in. It was poop. I caught poop. I grow carnivorous plants. They are super interesting and they get rid of flies. I make books from scratch. I make my own covers, cut all the papers for the inside pages, and sew them together by hand. eBay or Etsy if you're looking to make a pretty penny. Emphasis on Etsy probably. High school teacher and musician. I built a little project studio a few years ago in my basement. I've now helped a few young rock and roll bands get demos recorded to get them gigs. Some of the players have been astounding. All have been appreciative and it is a great way to see what kids are up to outside of school. Turns out I really like producing music that isn't mine. Real life School of Rock. Love it. I build stone walls on my property here in Vermont. Weekends are spent walking deep into the forest which surrounds me and search for rocks to pry out of the earth. I try to find the largest which I can safely carry and give them a bear hug and carry them back to the wall and process. There's something incredibly satisfying building with stone, no mortar, and finding that perfect fit as though that rock has been waiting for thousands of years for this purpose. Sometimes the fit is so good that I step back in amazement and look around as though to ask, "Did you see that?" Even if no one saw, that's still cool. Apnea training and freediving. Just learning about the body's cardiopulmonary system and how you can make it adapt to surviving 5-7 minutes underwater has been amazing. And there's nothing quite as peaceful as being underwater and feeling no urgency to move quickly or return to the surface. The ocean animals are also a lot more relaxed when you have that calmness and aren't exhaling bubbles like a scuba diver. I raise butterflies, mostly monarch butterflies but also eastern black swallowtails and some others that occasionally show up in my garden. The occasional moth too. I bring in eggs or any caterpillar I can provide food and a safe place for until they are fully grown. I release them when they become an adult. If they end up sick or diseased, instead of releasing them, I care for them until they pass away. When I find them sick or in need of help out in the world, I bring them in and help them recover. If they don't get better, they have a calm place with me until they pass. It is both a heartbreaking and joyous hobby to have. When I'm out in the garden they will land on me and let me hold them. When they are sick they come to me and let me care for them. Even ones I have not raised. I've learned so much from them and feel blessed to have the trust of such beautiful creatures. Butterflies are dying out due to humans destroying their natural habitats and food. Please plant milkweed. That one small kindness can help them so much. 3. With my limited physical ability, I think my sunflower garden with a 9 feet 9 inches tall plant is interesting. Go sunflower go. Archaeological geophysics to find Roman roads. I managed to find a previously unknown Roman small town. I restore and operate vintage railroad equipment including steam locomotives. Shoveling 5 tons of coal a day is a real kick in the ass. But I've been crazy about steam since I was a little boy and it's neat to get to keep these skills alive 60 plus years after the technology died out. Chemistry. I have a full-on laboratory in my basement. I'm not talking about a science kit. I have over $30,000 invested in it. I used to run an online chemical store from my home. No, I don't make drugs. AMA. $30k invested in laboratory. Not making drugs. Bruh. Beekeeping. It's fascinating to learn more and more about the complex life the bees have. Also, it is incredibly rewarding to eat honey that was made by your bees with the flowers and trees in your own garden. That's amazing. Keen to get into that actually. I do recreational mathematics because I like math and it makes people laugh when I talk about it. I'm a fire juggler and I'm learning to throw knives. At my college, we have to take what is known as wellness classes. Basically you can do anything from talking about your feelings to learning underwater basket weaving and parkour. My roommates asked me if I wanted to take the juggling course and now after a few years of practice all 3 of us can juggle fire. I collect currency from different countries that aren't in circulation anymore. If the 10 million Turkish lira comes back, I will be a millionaire in the US. I smuggled 2 East German coins out of East Berlin in my shoes in 1976. I was terrified, but I have 2 East German coins. I blacksmith as a hobby, cause I'd like to make it my profession. I carve wood specificity for the slivers left over after carving. I dye the slivers and make them into flowers. I also dye and paint, acrylic, watercolor, anything really, paper to make flowers. I really like making flowers in unusual ways. One of my favorite hobbies is writing letters. I have pen pals all over the world, and I love reading their stories and learning about their cultures while also sharing my own. It's a great way to get to know about places you may either not have known about before, or had some misconceptions about thanks to the media. I love slowing down to concentrate on a person and respond to their letter, making my own envelopes and decorating them, choosing pieces to go into them with the stationery, and hopefully giving them something to smile about when the letter arrives in their mailbox. It's a lot of fun, and it can be very rewarding too. Reddit is kinda like a whole website full of pen pals, that's why I like it, although handwritten letters dope. I'm a male knitter. I took it up in honor of a very good friend who died suddenly on the eve of her 31st birthday because of an aortic aneurysm. She would spend all year knitting scarves and hats for the homeless and needy to give out at Christmas. I inherited all her knitting stuff and kept up the tradition in her honor. I've been having my own existential crisis lately, and let me just say, hearing this brought me so much peace. Your friend was doing something to change the world, and with her passing she continued to do it, posthumously. It's beautiful. I build electric skateboards. Want something that goes 40 miles per hour around town and can do it for 20-30 miles? I'm your guy. It takes a lot of research, time, and money, but it's worth it when you ride on your death machine that you made yourself. My teacher built one and broke his arm and a door while testing it out in our school. I collect high school and college ebooks. I have over 400 of them, going back to the 1890s. They're a microcosm of an era and a specific location, and are fascinating. My little brother farms mealworms and cockroaches, very successfully, sells them for a profit, and feeds them to his geckos. Also, he builds terrariums full of mosses and centipedes etc. He can expand the mealworm end by targeting chicken owners too. My girls love mealworms. My more unusual hobby is collecting paper maps. I have every US state and Canadian province, plus most major cities, and since I'm in Florida I have every city or county in this state. I started this many years ago, and I'm glad I did. I got most of my maps free from either state highway departments or through my AAA membership. Unfortunately anymore most state highway departments quit publishing their own maps, and AAA's selection is very sparse now. But there's nothing like correctly folding a paper map and being able to use them either to study the place or navigate if you do use them. GPS is fine, but I like paper maps better. I guess mine is a little tame comparatively, but I make ice creams, sorbets, and gelatos from scratch, including inventing my own recipes. I make a different flavor every week, and have done about 100 by now. It wins me many friends at the office. I sing Gregorian chant. It takes daily practice and much concentration to sing chant stylistically and musically correct, with proper intonation, but its beauty and transcendental qualities are rewarding. I knit blankets and hats for babies in hospital. I was in hospital 2 years ago, and there was a very kind lady who saw how much pain I was in, and always tried to distract me. She told me that's what she does when she's bored. I never got to say goodbye or thank you to her before I moved to another ward. This is my way of paying it forward. I collect restore 80s and 90s electronics. Started with retro gaming gear, moved into 2-channel stereo gear, then portable CD players, and now I'm on a ThinkPad binge. Aviculture, care and keeping of birds. Why? Because it's fun. I enjoy them, and they are sweethearts. Currently have 11 due to breeding. However, I won't be keeping the entire clutch. I am going to hold back one female if the one I think is a girl actually is. She's the only one that's in the mutation I want to breed one of my other birds with, and he is definitely a male. Astronomy and astrophotography started because I wanted to take cool pictures of stuff in space. But taking good photos of deep space objects takes hours, so I bought some stargazing binoculars to pass the time while my setup took pictures. Then I started learning about the constellations and the history behind the naming and the stories and stuff. Got hooked to astronomy more than the photography. It's a great hobby, but it's tough since the equipment can be pricey and you have to do it at night. Also, my favorite objects are in the winter, so I usually end up doing super cold nights out in the high desert for best viewing. Frigid here just thinking about it. Makes it hard to go out more than 3 times a year. But when I go, it's usually for a couple days camping trip with viewing photography every night. Now I miss living in Southern California. Joshua Tree was my favorite. I have a really bizarre hobby that I hide from a lot of people, so I made a throwaway to share it with y'all. I like to help cam models with career development. I help with the SEO writing of profiles, tutor them in English, and get them custom graphics for profiles, and help them with other things that pop up while working as cam models. When I lived abroad, I befriended a bunch of girls working in the sex tourism industry. They would show me around the city and buy me all sorts of food. In return, I started tutoring them in English. Once I moved back to the States, I got a TEFL certification and wanted to teach English abroad, but that didn't work out. Fast forward a few years, some of my friends started getting involved with cam modeling. One of the new girls came from a poorer village and didn't know much English, so I agreed to tutor her as a favor to my friend. Word of mouth spread, and more models reached out. I kept doing it because I enjoyed it. After a few changes in the industry and getting to know what the models wanted help with, I started helping out with things like SEO writing, pricing, and other random business related things that are difficult without a strong grasp of English or a bank account in the US. You really shouldn't be embarrassed about this. I honestly think this is one of the cooler things mentioned here. I build custom mechanical keyboards as a hobby sometimes. I enjoy typing on different kinds and stylizing them to try and give them some sort of persona depending on the kind of key switches I use. Basically how they feel when typing and how loud they clack. They're very satisfying to see completed and even more satisfying to type with. I like to collect rocks that are shaped like hearts. It's hard to find them, but since I found the perfect heart-shaped rock on a hike with my husband, then boyfriend, I've loved to search for them ever since. Maybe not that unusual, but origami and paper crafting in general. I started with origami when I was super young, but I kept it up out of habit. Nowadays, I use to help control anxiety. Can't chew my fingernails if I'm folding. I started doing papercraft as a low-cost hobby in college and found it was a relaxing way to maintain focus and feel somewhat productive if I was feeling down. I don't know if it's interesting to anyone else but me, but I study controversial, challenged, banned or previously banned movies. Everything from the devils to necromantic. I like to see how far I can push myself. Try to place myself in other people's shoes. What makes me, and other people in general, uncomfortable when it comes to what they are willing to watch and what they aren't? Why might that be? Personal experiences, where they were raised, social taboos, how they vary from country to country, religious hangovers, political histories. A guy I know is fond of really dark humor, for instance, but dislikes anything to do with self-mutilation of the eyes. Another person I know will watch the goriest of films, but will not go near any film that has any blasphemy in it. They both have their own personal reasons for it. It also brings up a lot of questions about censorship, the impact movies can have, and one of my favorite things is analyzing how movies can make us feel so uneasy, through looking at the likes of the soundtrack, the cinematography, etc. In my work I'm now known as the guy who watches weird crap. I'm weirdly proud of it. Woodworking. I started doing it because I like to make stuff with my hands. Turns out I have a pretty good ability to do it, so I went from making simple things like picture frames to making trestle dining room tables. Disclaimer: if you start woodworking because you think it'll be cheaper to build your own furniture, you're wrong. When you get good, sure you can make custom furniture for cheaper than you can buy it, but getting your tool collection to the point where you can make that furniture is very expensive. Or you can buy into a shared workshop, purchase a membership, and they have all the tools you need. Legit looking at rocks or stones because I am just amazed by the shape and colors of it. Big or small, IDC rock is a rock. I'm a board gamer. I have around 600 games in my collection, ranging from lightweight games and party style games all the way up to 11-hour plus train games, 18xx. I have a couple of groups I play with, but regular nights are midweek where we have a couple of beers, chat about all sorts and rattle through a few games. It's a great hobby and so sociable. Plus, if you find a friend like me that buys all the games, then it's almost free. I say that my hobby is finding new ways to not touch the ground. I rock climb, pole dance, and do aerial silks. If I could spend the rest of my life hanging out upside down, I would. You've been visited by the bush Papa Boop Nose for 10 years. Good luck and cuddles. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.